Welcome to a new series that I am calling Daily Duels. Basically the concept is simple. I pick a deck that I've either been wanting to test out or have been testing out on the ladder, and I play a couple games and upload them to YouTube, win or lose. So unlike the normal videos that you may have seen me post in the past, these ones are going to be a little more raw. Typically when I do like a deck spotlight or something, I'm trying to endorse a deck that has been very good for me in terms of win rate and performance, so that hopefully you guys will be able to mimic that. That will not always be the case with this series. As it turns out, when I am trying to figure out what works in a deck and what doesn't, sometimes things just don't go very well. But I wanted to do something that was episodic and that I could do either daily or like close to daily as best as I could. And this felt like the right way to go about it. So, you know, just hop into a couple of games every day, see how it goes, and then you guys can maybe see a little bit more about what like my thought process is. So you may tell from the screen, today's going to be Sorcerer. This is a list that I have been playing for a long time. I did a deck spotlight a long time ago, many seasons ago, many expansions ago, that I called Warden of the North. It was a Ward Sorcerer mid-range deck, and so this is just like the next evolution. We're going to go ahead and dive into the game. If you got to catch the Invitational that the Tessel Championship Series guys hosted over the weekend that I participated in, I did play this deck there, but with one slight modification. So the version that I ran there also ran Blackworm Necromancer, and I have since replaced that with Bringer of Nightmares. Necromancer was great, and I still like it as a card, but in really late game scenarios, specifically post Bone Colossus, you do run the chance of potentially getting a skeleton back, even if you get the trigger. And then in close mirror matches, sometimes it's hard to play him and still get the trigger. Now, you also may notice from the list that this list does not run Shadowfen Priest, which used to be basically mandatory in a deck like this. The reason Shadowfen Priest is out is because 9 times out of 10 you played it for the silence, and Sorcerer's negation is essentially taking that spot. See, this is horrible, because normally you want to play something here, but I don't like doing this on an empty board. So, with Shadowfen Priest out, it kind of frees up that 5 or 6 drop range. So we're going to go with Bringer of Nightmares, because it is a quality utility card. Alright, let's go ahead and do that. So obviously we went first against Sorcerer, but interesting, this is a ramp Sorcerer.
The waters of life.
Which was not something that I was expecting, to say the least. We're kind of in a world of hurt here with no real 4-drop either, as sad as that is. So what we're actually going to do here, these are all reactionary cards, like everything but the Tome. So while I normally like being reactionary with the Tome, it is the safest of them because it cycles. And then we also have no 5-drop. This is a really weird hand. So typically Sorcerer is played in a mid-range way, meaning that you want to play the best threat possible along the way. We are failing at that currently. Failing pretty hard, mind you. Alright, so now we might have some actual plays here. We're going to go ahead and go with the Dragon Tail, because he gets the buff. And we're mostly going to negate this because we want to push. Because we need some damage on him. He's playing ramp, he's already way ahead in the Magicka game, and we've put basically 0 pressure on him. Alright, so that's unfortunate that he got that off. It's not too unfortunate, because we have a lot of our late game potential threats here. In fact, we can still deal with this pretty well. We will end up losing our Ward Crafter to this, but
Careful there.
we're gonna go ahead and ward this up, swing this in, and then bolt it. So we'll get a Tome back out of it. Our Daggerfall still is alive to swing. This still doesn't trade. Again, we'll probably end up losing this. There's no way we're going to tome this before trading. We're likely going to trade and then Bone Colossus here to start generating some real pressure.
Feed and flee. Element. Elements, I summon thee.
Take that back. We will not be playing Bone Colossus. Yeah, see, this is the problem without generating pressure. So there's a couple of different lines that we can take here. We can obviously bolt this and make a couple of trades, but see, the biggest problem with Sorcerer is you really need to play from the lead. This deck doesn't have a lot that really helps it catch up once it's behind, and we are pretty significantly behind, largely because we had 0 early pressure. I mean, pretty much 0. We run like 12 2-drops and 12 3-drops, and we found 1 in that early game. Yeah, so we could have like a bolt, trade, trade. The other option being we could Hail Mary on a bringer.
Your
I mean,
blood will spill.
I will rend.
That's actually what we're gonna do.
Your blood will spill.
It's the best option we have, unfortunately. It's a really rough spot to be in there. We would have been fine if we were playing things on curve, but now that we're behind, I'm not sure there's any good way for us to catch up.
Elements, I
Yeah,
summon
that
thee.
will seal it. Alright, well, as I said, sometimes things don't go your way. This is, I guess, the prime example of that. Though it's not necessarily, at least in my opinion. Yeah, see, now with the overdraw, there's no way to save ourselves. We would need another bringer into, like, Odavinger or Alduin, and then even then we'd probably die to Lightning Bolt.
Sing me your pain.
I mean, suppose we can try to die like a man.
This was a worthy contest.
But yeah, so I don't think this is necessarily a fault of the deck. This is just a really weird time of variance. Like, we drew all of our Bone Colossi and 1, 2, 3 of our 6-drops. And yet we drew almost none of our 2-drops. So those are just the kinds of games that you lose. Especially on this deck. So let's go ahead and, I guess, try again. Dive into game 2. Maybe this will go better. I mean, once he got to where he was at 9 Magicka with double Atro in hand, like, you're just gonna lose that matchup. Alright, so we have a 2-drop, we have a 3-drop, that's great. And we have another 2-drop. So this is the way that you typically want to start with this style of deck. Now, it's always feels bad when you have to play Dragon Tail on an empty board, but just because it feels bad doesn't mean that you don't want to do it. Never hold out for the buffs if this is your only turn 2 play. Harpy is different. It's entirely reactionary. Alright, so this is an interesting scenario, because normally I would like to develop Daggerfall before Spirit. However, this is a troublemaker, especially in Crusader, because most people are playing this aggressive token creator, or token Crusader / creator, I guess, strategy. So if you can deal with this kind of early, it's great. So playing the Spirit over the Daggerfall makes sense, because we want to be able to get in there.
You can't defeat me.
Alright, so not the end of the world. We also want to, as best we can, firmly control this field lane. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We're going to go ahead and do this so that it gets the buff. And then we're going to negate, take our 2. Yeah, I guess let's do it now. Probably should have done that first, but that's me always forgetting that that card cycles like that. Oh, expansion.
There's a plan.
Yeah, always draw your cards before you play, if you can. Alright, so now we're probably going to go with some tempo plays. We lead with this one first because if this one dies, it has a chance to buff this, so we can still swing and or trade.
Join the circle.
We're gonna actually go ahead and come in with this one as well. Wow. Crusader typically doesn't run this many prophecies,
By
so
our service, we honor kind.
this is interesting. Wondering if this is almost like a prophecy Crusader style build. Like, I find it very interesting. Let's go ahead and shackle that. Yeah, it's kind of like I'm unsure if these were just unfortunate triggers or if he really is prophecy heavy. We haven't seen. Wow, he stole a Thief of Dreams as well. He's totally going to get another one off of it too, which is going to suck. We haven't seen anything to say it's not meant to be like typical aggro. But this is an interesting include. It's taking an awful long time deciding. I bet it presented him Daggerfall and something else, which is making him second guess.
Since Khajiit was outwitted.
Because he probably thought I would have played Daggerfall on curve. But with the 5th Legion there, we opted not to.
You won't foil my plan.
Protect the Harbinger.
Alright, so there's some interesting paths that we can take here if we want to try to control the board still. Option 1 is we could crash this in, and then crash this here, meaning it would guarantee give +3/+3 here. Now this would still end up taking damage, but at least this would survive. The other option is we could ignore and swing. Double crash these into here and play Thief of Dreams. So we can either have this plus Thief, or we can have this buffed plus Thief. This buffed plus Thief represents more damage on the board, so it's probably the best route to go. And East March. So I did that fast, but here's the thing. A 1-drop likely would have been played by then. East March, however, is a very likely card to have not been played, even though it's a 3-drop, because he hasn't cracked a rune, and he's probably holding out until he's cracked a rune to play it. So I'm sorry I did that fast, but that is the reasoning behind that decision.
No catching this one. Close ranks. Let nothing through.
So ideally here we would like to top deck. Well, I was about to say like a Firebolt, but I guess he took out that option, huh?
Too late for you.
By the 8th,
Let's go and do this. So this is an okay play because unless he has some sort of ping, this doesn't trade with this, and if it trades here, then this gets buffed. Now he could trade and then like Javelin if he's got it. But we also load up on this side because we want to be able to trade in and we want to be able to Bone Colossi over here this next round. The sooner we start abusing these, the better.
So many purses, so little time.
Alright. These cards are such good value. I am a huge fan of this card. I'm sure as I do this series you will see a lot of the Shadowfoot. Alright, so unlike last time, we're going to do this now. Alright, Bringer Spike. Let's go ahead and do that. And then that. And let's get our Bone Daddy online. So we're probably taking some damage here, but unless he's got answers, we can dish it right back. Along with some decent versatility now. We have a couple of ways to draw cards. We have a way to reflood the board, and we've got potential answers, and then these are even better on top of it, right? So he does swing and get the health lead. Kind of a bummer there for us. But not the end of the world. That actually might work out pretty well for us. Gonna totally do that. So we'll lose the skeletons. Not necessarily a huge deal though. Let's do that. Got a lot of different ways that we can go with this. Do this, and this one here. Let's dive in the Daggerfall. Let's go with a negation. And then before we decide to trade there or not,
No matter what.
let's draw a card. And let's take that trade. And we're going to ward this. And the reason we're going to ward this is because of Underworld Vigilante. Warding does nothing against Dawnbreaker. It does nothing against Javelin. There's plenty of ways you can kill this anyway. However, he may just off the cuff run like Rapid Shot, Skaven Pyromancer, Underworld Vigilante. So this is still, I think, a safe ward. Shadow Mirror, right? Can he Shadow Mirror into this? Yes. Does he likely have another way to run into it? Yeah, he likely has another way to run into it. Let's do this. This. Let's leave the Spirit, because again, if he nukes that, it will just buff one of these. Let's go with a Thief. Let's go with the Jarl. So again, kind of the same thing. Hooray! So in that last choice, we were kind of picking the Jarl because there wasn't a good spot for him to have potentially played it. So it just made the most sense, but I felt like we were doing a good job of bleeding him out. We had the second Bone Colossus. We had a bringer for potential emergencies. That's what that deck's supposed to do. So unlike the first game, we got out in front. That's why you may have noticed in the deck selection, I call it Snowball Sorcerer, because that's 100% the playstyle. You want to take control of the board and then continue to push your advantage while you have control. The deck list is great at doing that with high efficient threats, but does not do well at playing from behind. You don't have board resets, you don't have health gain. It's entirely a deck that's intended to have the bigger board presence, or at least be even at pretty much all times. So yeah, there we go. That's 2 games. This is the first of my daily duels, so hopefully we'll do this some more, and you guys can see more of me, and I don't have to go, 4 or 5 days in between videos, because I can push this stuff out, hopefully daily on top of the other ones. So thanks for watching, and until next time, may you walk on warm sands.